This is an amazing crowd. We are humbled that so many of you responded to our call to gather here today. So many of you have been fighting fascism, racism, and other forms of injustice for years. We all stand on the shoulders of those who have fought fascism throughout history. From the colonization of the stolen land we stand on, to the enslavement of Africans, to Franco and Hitler's regimes, and beyond. United Against Racism and Fascism NYC is a broad-based coalition of groups and individuals united around one thing: to mobilize mass opposition to the resurgent far right. While we may not see completely eye to eye on other issues, we can all agree on the need to bring large numbers of people into the streets to confront fascists whenever and wherever they appear.
That's right.
This is a crucial moment for all people fighting fascism to come together. We woke up yesterday morning to the horrifying news of the massacre of Muslim worshippers in New Zealand by a white supremacist who is inspired by the relentless anti-Muslim and anti-immigrant rhetoric that for many years has come from our president and other mainstream politicians worldwide. Today we pay our respects to the victims of this fascist terrorist attack. We recognize that a unified global anti-fascist movement is more critical today than even 2 days ago. We stand in sorrow and in full solidarity with all those targeted by the far right, particularly at this moment, Muslims. We would like to pause for a brief moment of silence to honor those who were silenced by fascism. On March 21st, 1960, in the township of Sharpeville, South Africa, 7,000 protesters gathered to peacefully demonstrate against the racist laws of their country's apartheid regime. The police opened fire on the crowd, killing 69 people. The Sharpeville massacre helped awaken the international community to the horrors of apartheid. In 1966, the United Nations proclaimed March 21st the International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. This week, over 60 cities worldwide are recognizing the United Nations Anti-Racism Day with marches and demonstrations. For the first time, New York is joining in. We all know that this is a frightening and dangerous time in our world, in our country, and in our city. In our blue state, and even in our incredibly diverse, majority non-white city, hate is on the rise. Crime is down overall, but hate crimes are up. Deportations, mass incarceration, segregation, and police violence affect our fellow New Yorkers on a daily basis. But our city is made up of fearless individuals and communities who come together to fight back. And today, many of you are here. By being active anti-racists, by defending immigrants and refugees, by fighting gentrification and police violence, By being active in your union or otherwise improving people's lives, you are doing the work of anti-fascism. And I want to thank our endorsers. We have a list. It's just too long to read right now, but check our website, our Facebook page. Thank you so much for supporting this rally. Thank you so much. We couldn't have done this by our lonesome selves. So now we have a lineup of amazing speakers, members, and leaders of our communities who do this kind of work on a daily basis. I agree. Our first speaker, I'd like to welcome Emily Wu Yamasaki. She's a queer, socialist, feminist organizer with the Freedom Socialist Party. She is also a member of UAW Local 2320. A longtime builder of coalitions, Emily helped launch United Against Racism and Fascism NYC. She is also active with the Police Accountability-focused campaign for an elected civilian review board. Give her a big round of applause for Emily Wu Yamasaki.
Thank you, Gordon. I'm really happy to be speaking here today on behalf of the Freedom Socialist Party, as he said, one of the member organizations of United Against Racism and Fascism New York City, with a number of other organizations, and to be here with all of you who came out today against racism and fascism. I'm a proud, queer, socialist, feminist, and unionist of color. Yeah! And what is a socialist, a communist, but a defender of the working class against the fascists? We're so glad to see unionists here, and feminists, and freedom fighters of all colors. But first, as Gordon said, let us condemn and mourn in one voice the massacres this week of 49 Muslims at 2 mosques in New Zealand, as well as the October assassinations of 11 Jews at Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, and the killings not long ago of 9 African Americans at Mother Emanuel AME Church in South Carolina. These were all acts by self-proclaimed white supremacists, and unfortunately the list of such horrors does not end there. But what I want to focus on today is the root of fascism, case in point, and how we can most effectively defeat it. In the US and other parts of the world, racism is a pillar of fascism. African Americans are no strangers to fascism and right-wing terror. The Klan is an ugly part of American history. The first police forces in this country were formed to catch runaway slaves and prevent slave revolts. But the resistance of the black community and whites, who together with blacks also put their lives on the line to fight men in white hoods as well as men in blue, is also an important part of our history. It's not always easy to work across the color line, but now more than ever, we need to be doing that and go beyond the identity politics that divides our movements and our communities. White people need to not just be on the sidelines, and people of color need to stand shoulder to shoulder with our white comrades. People of color and whites, immigrants and non-immigrants, all have a common enemy: the corporate profiteers of capitalism. And this takes us to the very root of fascism. Without capitalism, there would be no fascism. Fascist currents grow when people feel besieged and desperate, and we can blame the Democrats as well as the Republicans for propping up capitalism and for the ever-growing extreme economic inequality that sets the very stage for today's polarized political climate. And we can blame Trump and his administration for emboldening the shock troops of the ruling 1%, like the Proud Boys. Just as in Nazi Germany, the fascism needs scapegoats. And scapegoats are supposed enemies who they blame for the economic scarcities that actually the 1% is responsible for. The ultimate goal of fascism is actually to smash the power of unions and the working class itself. And can we really defeat the right wing? Yes, we can! The Freedom Socialist Party has a long history of fighting the fascists and was, along with our sister organization, Radical Women, part of a successful campaign spearheaded by people of color, feminists, LGBTQ people, leftists, young people, and unionists, all working together in a united front that kicked Nazis and white supremacists out of the Pacific Northwest, where they tried to establish an Aryan homeland. And a united front means that groups can have their programmatic differences, but strike back together wherever the ultra-right rallies or marches or holds an action in our cities. It means we exercise our First Amendment rights to mount the biggest, loudest, most unified direct counter demonstration that we can, not holding so-called peaceful demonstrations several blocks away from where the fascists are rallying. We are proud to be a part of the coalition that organized today's march. Check out the Facebook page and website for United Against Racism and Fascism NYC to get involved and come to the next meeting and become a part of United Against Racism and Fascism. We're not living under fascism yet. The fascists are in process of building their own united fronts, and they're well funded. And when it comes to who they target, they don't leave anyone out. So the very survival of their targets, that's all of us here, depends on our building a broad, democratic, united front to stop the stormtroopers in their tracks. Together we can defeat the fascist threat. We are many, you are few. We are many, you are few. Beat back the fascist attack. Beat back the fascist attack.
Thank you so much, Emily Wu Yamasaki. I'd like to introduce our next speaker. We're thrilled to introduce Dr. Ahmed Jaber. He's the chairman of Dawood Mosque, the oldest functioning mosque in New York State, which was established in Brooklyn Heights in 1939. He is the founder of the Arab American Association of New York, the largest Arab social service provider organization in Bay Ridge, an activist and community leader since 1974, and he's an OBGYN who delivered about 5,000 babies throughout his career. Please welcome Dr. Ahmed Jaber.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you. We are gathering today to be united against fascism and racism. In the holy book of the Quran, the holy book of Muslims, a famous verse says, "O mankind, we created you from a female and male, so we'll make you peoples and tribes, so you will know each other and not despise each other. The most noble among you are those who are pious and righteous. There's no discrimination between white or black, Arab or Asian. All are equal in the eyes of God." That's how we were made from Adam. And Adam was made from earth, from mud. The Muslim community has been subjected for surveillance, discrimination, and singled out by NYPD, FBI, and Homeland Security. This is not something new. When you want your enemy, then you vilify him. So what happened in Iraq? They said that they have power, they have weapons of mass destruction. They invaded Iraq. Did they find any? No. They surveyed the Muslim community in New York City for 5, 7, 8 years. Did they come up with anything positive? No. They admitted that. They enlisted thousands of Muslims by Homeland Security and FBI. And their names are still on that list. They violated our rights as a Muslim community. Islam is always about peace, but people do not want, not people, I'm sorry, the right wing, the fascists, they do not want to understand that and acknowledge it. The word Assalamu alaikum means peace upon you. Islam was sent for peaceful message for the whole world, that Allah created all us equally. The first thing the Prophet of Islam did when he was kicked out of his hometown as an immigrant to another town called Medina, what he did, he put the people together and they said they are equal. They are one brother to each other. So Islam is based on immigration. We are all immigrant people. So when we here in the wealthiest, richest, most powerful country treat immigrants as scumbags, or when thousands, 7,000, 4,000, 5,000 people who are seeking asylum from South America, they come to our borders seeking their American dream, legally, lawfully, by applying for asylum, and they are being labeled as invaders. They are invading our borders as if they have tanks and airplanes to invade this country. When Muslims are seeking justice in this country, they are being labeled as anti-democracy. They hate our cultures. We are American Muslims, law-abiding citizens who contributed so much to this country. To be discriminated against and labeled as such is not right. We are here to condemn such discrimination, to say to people that fascism is not acceptable, that violence and hate does not solve our problems. Building walls does not make us safer. They tried that before. Look what happened in Berlin. The wall has been gone. So we should learn our lessons from our history. Our president, in spite of the Congress saying national emergency is not legal, is not right, and he put his veto in it. He thinks he is above law. No, he is not. If he is going to do that, 2020 is coming soon. Our vote will be there. Our voice will be heard. Islamophobia has been on the rise because of our politicians, because those who open their mouths loud and not verify Muslims, but they are saying Islam itself is a source of violence. Here we go. When white supremacists, they attack our synagogue or our temples, the Sikhs, or our masajid, they don't say they are Christians. They say they are supremacists. They are defending their freedom of speech. Look at that. But when somebody is a Muslim who do some horrors thing, they say Islam is the source of it. What a double standard. But we are here to tell them that we are against all these ism, whether it's fascism, whether it's Islamophobism, whether against gay and lesbians, whether against any bigotry, against any minority, against Latinos, against black, against white. We are against all of that. And we tell them that people united, they never be defeated. People united, they will never be defeated. People united will never be defeated. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ahmad Jaber. I'd like to introduce a member of United Against Racism, Fascism NYC, Yanis Dalatolas. He's a socialist, supporter of international socialist tendency. He's a photographer, and he's done anti-fascist organizing in Greece and New York. Yanis.
It's great to see you here today. This is a wonderful turnout for what we hope will be a tradition of anti-fascist organizing and in solidarity with the anti-fascist movement. The fascists are organizing internationally. They have links between them. They help each other. Steve Bannon has an office in Brussels. So we really have to take, we have to take international solidarity very seriously. After yesterday's horrific attacks in the 2 mosques in New Zealand, can anyone say that we were surprised? We were horrified, profoundly saddened and shocked, but not surprised. In this country, especially since Trump's election, and around the world, from Europe to Brazil to India, racism, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, and xenophobia are all on the rise. Racism has become acceptable in the mainstream media. It is harbored by democratically elected governments and our presumably liberal institutions. This is the context in which 22 of us met last October in a room at a university to address this racism that has emboldened the fascists and the far right. We felt there was an urgent need to create United Against Racism and Fascism. In our efforts, we draw inspiration from various directions, including the successful experiences of the Greek, European anti-fascist movements in containing the fascist threats. Here today, I would like to briefly talk about that. In the past, I worked closely with KERFA, Movement United Against Racism and the Fascist Threat, one of the most active organizations on the Greek left, which was created when the economic crisis hit the country and racist attacks on left-wing militants started rising. It has been 10 years already. The left was gaining in popularity, and the neo-Nazi Golden Dawn, once a marginal group, was making inroads and finally entered parliament in 2012. Golden Dawn cadre would leave the local offices, organized into street gangs armed with knives and clubs in search of anarchists, leftists, and immigrants. These assault squads and this type of activities that were based in the Nazi Party's stormtroops would land Golden Dawn in court for using its offices to organize these attacks. Under Greek law, this kind of activity falls under the definition of running a criminal organization. On January 17, 2013, Shehzad Luqman, a 27-year-old Pakistani worker, while biking to his early morning shift at a local market, was stabbed and killed by 2 Greek men. They were both quickly arrested, and while searching their apartments, they found literature of the Golden Dawn Party and knives, just like the one that was used to murder the young immigrant. They were eventually found guilty, but initially the police claimed that this was purely coincidental. Brutal attacks against immigrants and refugees continue to take place, organized by Golden Dawn. The media continued to give Golden Dawn coverage and treated them as if they were rock stars by inviting them to daily shows to interview them. KERFA actively sought an alliance with the Pakistani community of Greece, as well as the Afghani and Egyptian and other immigrant communities. Together, they campaigned and staged press releases, releasing the graphic photos of the victims of these attacks on social media. This united front forced both the authorities and the media to respond, but it was not automatic. It took another murder that Golden Dawn organized. This time, the victim was the Greek anti-fascist hip-hop artist Pavlos Fyssas, who was assassinated by an assault team organized by the fascist party's leadership. The anti-fascist movement erupted. There was a huge demonstration to the Golden Dawn headquarters. This anti-fascist explosion was followed by an anti-fascist strike by the Public Sector Workers Union. The authorities feared an uprising at that point, similar to the one that followed the assassination of Alexis Grigoropoulos, a teenage protester who was shot point blank by a Greek policeman in 2008. The anti-fascist movement's lawyers, also known as Jail Golden Dawn Initiative, presented a mountain of evidence tying Golden Dawn up in a very long trial. The largest and longest trial against fascism since the Nuremberg trials. There is little trust towards the courts, or even the current self-described leftist government in Greece. The anti-fascist movement is keeping the pressure up, and alongside with immigrant communities has taken repeatedly to the streets to meet Golden Dawn head-on. They have forced the fascists out of the streets and out of public squares, where they have tried to hold pre-election rallies and public events. They organized land workers in the strawberry farms when the bosses working with the fascists tried to deny payment to the workers and intimidate them. They helped workers in those fields organize a union numbering many thousands. It is this type of united front we need here, and we are in the process of building. We will need to come out and outnumber them whenever they try to hold a public event, to call them out for what they are: fascists, white supremacists, and racists. We are the majority, we can and we will win, but there is one condition: we need unity amongst ourselves. So I would like to end with chanting "Never Again Fascism" in Greek. My Greek comrades can help me. Ποτέ ξανά φασισμός! Ποτέ ξανά φασισμός! Fascismos! Ποτέ ξανά fascismos!
Thank you, Yanis. I'm really thrilled to introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is Jay Walker. He has been involved in activism around LGBTQ and HIV/AIDS issues for over 20 years. In 1998, he helped form the October 19th Coalition, which used direct action activism to raise awareness of hate crimes targeting LGBTQ communities. He also volunteered with GMHC's New York Citizens AIDS Network Legislative Public Policy Initiative. Jay is a founding member of Gays Against Guns. He also helped form the resistance direct action group Rise and Resist. In the spring of 2018, Jay joined other committed LGBTQTSIA activists, dismayed by the increasingly corporatized and NYPD-centered Pride Parade, informing Reclaim Pride Coalition. Everyone, please welcome Jay Walker.
Hey, everyone. Like the men said, I'm here really to represent the Reclaim Pride Coalition, but I'm also here as a proud black man and as a proud gay man who stands up against the horror that we have been living through for the last 2 years every single day. We have to stand up against it. We have to put our voices against this growing fascism, this growing authoritarianism, this unleashing of hatred and bigotry and anti-Semitism and Islamophobia that has swept across our country. Hate crimes have grown at an astronomical proportion over the last couple of years, and there is no mystery as to why it has happened. We have a president who campaigned on hatred. We have a president who campaigned on making fun of disabled people. We have a president who campaigned on misogyny. And then we wonder why people are getting shot in mass shootings all over this country nonstop. And we wonder why hate crimes are on the rise. And we wonder why synagogues are being defaced with swastikas. And we wonder why hijabs are being ripped off of Muslim women's heads. There is no mystery. I have to say that I'm really sorry that this rally happened to coincide with when New York decided to do St. Patrick's Day, or I think that we might have a lot more people here.
We're here.
But we're here, and we're growing, and we will continue to grow, and we continue to stand tall, and we will continue to not be afraid of a few maggots and a few red hats waving a few stupid flags around. Because we know that even though this country has never lived up to the ideals on which it was founded, never has, we know that if we hold those ideas in our hearts, in our minds, in our souls, if we stand tall and keep speaking truth to the power, that one day, may not be for 100 years from now, but one day we will actually have the America that actually stands for America. So thank you all for joining in this fight. Thank you, UARF. How about WARF? WARF. I'm gonna go with WARF. Thank you, WARF, for holding this event today, for getting all these folks out here today. Folks, get on social media together, meet each other, exchange numbers, exchange emails. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. There's a hell of a lot of work that needs to be done over the next 2 years so that we can ensure that we get this monster out of office as soon as possible. If we can't impeach him, we gotta get him out the old-fashioned way. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much, Jay Walker. He's awesome, isn't he awesome? Woo! I'd like to introduce our next speaker. She's representing an incredible group called Outlive Them. And she'll tell you a bit more about them. Her name is Sharona. She's a lifelong New Yorker, a CUNY alum, and an organizer with Outlive Them NYC, which is a coalition of anti-fascist Jews and anti-racist accomplices of all backgrounds. Give it up for Sharona.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. I'm out here representing Outlive Them, which is part of an international network of anti-fascist Jews on pretty much every continent except Antarctica. Outlive Them NYC came together last October after the Pittsburgh pogrom. We were, many of us, at the vigil in Union Square, hearing lots of words about thoughts and prayers and voting. And we were so angry and full of rage and decided to get together and talk about what we could do to eliminate the far right, the ability of the far right to organize in New York City. So we are not just Jews, we're people of all stripes and all backgrounds. And I have some notes, hold on. Fascism is a threat to our survival, literally a threat to the survival of everyone standing here. Whether it's racist, sexist killer cops on the streets of New York City, concentration camps at the border, or radicalized far-right vigilante violence against our communities and friends and allies, we have literally no choice but to win. Also, I just want to echo what my comrade from the Freedom Socialist Party said before, that this fascist violence, this resurgence of American fascism and fascism globally, the export of American fascism and white supremacy to other nations in the world, is not an aberration of a normally peaceful society. This is hegemonic white Christian capitalism working exactly as intended, trying to hold on to the last dregs of power as the working class is uniting and trying to take itself back, trying to take back its power. And something I can just speak from experience that in October, I met many of the people and outlived them when I traveled last August to Charlottesville to defend the synagogue from the Unite the Right the second time. The first time, there were Nazis marching up and down the street outside the synagogue with guns in formation, and the synagogue was unlocked, and the people inside didn't know what was going on, and they escaped through a back door, narrowly avoiding a horrible disaster. Tragedy, not a disaster, a tragedy. So a group of us organized to go back the second time. That's where I met these amazing comrades, and we came together, and now we're here today. And we were feeling really empowered about everything that we could possibly do, working with other anti-fascists in the city. And then the pogrom in Pittsburgh happened. And I can speak from experience that I was left feeling incredibly stunned, paralyzed, cold, distraught, powerless, so upset. It was unlike anything I, as a cis white woman, have ever felt before. And it took some time to realize that that is exactly what they want. They want us to feel powerless. They want us to feel isolated, further alienated from each other. They want us to feel just afraid to go to shul, afraid to go to our temples. Kind of became cold, became paralyzed, and if we let them succeed in that, that's a double crime. That's a crime on top of the crime. Like I said before, we have absolutely no choice but to win, and I think that we can. Some things that I'm so glad to be here today with this enormously broad coalition, and we look forward to all working together in the future to do what we can to start at home and not cede an inch of this city to the far right, whether they're in Brooklyn or Riverdale or Woodside. They don't get an inch of the street. We're going to kick them out of our workplaces. We're going to call them out. We're going to take care of them if they're in high school, wherever. You know, we got a variety of tactics. The last thing I want to say is that in the Mishnah, which is a book of Jewish teachings, there's a quote: "Whoever takes a human life is considered to have destroyed a world, and whoever saves a human life is considered as if he saved a world." And in the Quran, it says, "Whoever kills a soul, it is as if he had slain mankind entirely. And whoever saves one, it is as if he had saved mankind entirely." Here to represent Jewish solidarity with Muslims to the deepest root of our core. We organize anti-fascist action and bring anti-fascist action into the New York streets, rooted in the history of Jewish oppression and resistance, knowing full well in our bodies and in our tradition that radical Jewish organizing has been so effective, so internationalist, so diabolical at bringing people together against oppressive forces, hierarchical domination. And that's why it's been erased from history and deported and broken down, and our organizations shut down by the state and stuff. But we're taking it back, and we're out here for all people. New York City is built on the backs and run with the hands of the working class, which is largely not white. And we must stand up and we must win. We're going to win. I don't know if you can feel it, but I can feel it, that we're going to win. We're going to win. We're going to eliminate fascism from the streets of New York City and globally restructure the entire world. So, thanks.
No fascism! No fascism!